Thank you. Congratulations for BW team for sort of organizing this wonderful event. And I think personally and professionally, it's been a great honor for me, and it's a very humbling moment to stand before such industry veterans and sort of receive this honor and award. So I think, thank you.
Mr. Piyush, since we're talking about finance leadership, and one of the interesting conversations that happened this morning was that there's today a synergy between the role of a chief financial officer and chief executive officer. What, in your opinion, are some of the overlapping areas where you see these two positions having that synergy?
No, I think it's a very important and a sensitive one, right? I mean, if you traditionally look at it, right, CEOs have been looked at as a captain of the ship, and CFOs have been looked at as the leader of the finance. But I think in today's disruptive world, both CEOs and CFOs should function as a mother-father relationship for an organization. And there's a reason for that, right? A father is supposed to be sort of running the ship, taking those decisions. And the mother is supposed to be, sort of holding the purse strings and guiding the father in the right direction, right? So I think that's also very important, change which we are seeing in this relationship. And I think this will continue to evolve and emerge throughout industry, both from startup and our, emerging sectors.
So, Mr. Piyush, if we talk about the budget this year, the
Right.
government has laid a massive allocations for capital expenditure at least 10 lakh crore. But from medium-term growth prospects, the private capex will need to be kicked in. How do you see this triggering the cycle of private capex, the budget this year?
See, I think as a developing economy, right, we'll always have this huge demand of massive capital allocation for infrastructure. And I think this impetus from the government is a huge positive step towards it, right? The government will always be a capital provider. But I think the private sector will always be servicing that capital through execution. And therefore, I believe with this positive step, there'll be a lot of infrastructure demand which is going to get catered by the private sector, and therefore lead to a lot of capital outlay both from the private and the public side.
Right. Mr. Piyush, if you look at 2023, the 2 months, we've started on a shaky note in terms of, we've carried some legacy pain points on macroeconomic
Right.
from 2022. Be it inflation, the subsequent monetary tightening, and the volatility in equity markets. Given all of this and in this tough macroeconomic environment, as a finance leader, how do you plan to navigate in such an environment? What would be your strategy?
No, I think, today if you look at it, we are sort of at a, cusp of peak inflation trying to cool down. However, being in India, we are at a very unique position, right? Our domestic demand has been driving both our, consumption and the public markets, and which is one of the things which you don't see, that there's a massive correction in the public market in India as compared to the global macroeconomics, right? However, from what we are seeing today, I think because of this inflation cool down, there's going to be a shift in consumer pattern and demand behavior for about a quarter, wherein people will try to restrain their capital outflow and continue to do consumption basis, spending in day-to-day affairs. But I think the massive capital outlay from a consumer perspective will only happen in the second part of the year, when we see a lot of cool down on the inflation and the interest rate coming down, and people will have a lot more capital to deploy. So to that extent, I feel that the Indian domestic market is going to perform relatively well in the second half of the year. I think the first half should be relatively slower, or in terms of what we are doing today.
Right. My last question to as we have discussed, 3 years have been challenging across sectors, for companies. What would be that one single biggest advice you as a finance leader that you would like to give to future finance leaders, or even finance leaders who are among your generation, to tackle these unforeseen challenges?
Right, and I think that's an interesting one. See, if you look at it traditionally, right, everybody in the finance had these two buzzwords. They said either we do accounting very well or we do taxation very well, right? And there's nothing else, right? But if you look at today, the way startups are building their businesses, or the way anybody is trying to disrupt a category, the role of a CFO or a finance leader has been a complete 360-degree shift, right? Today, a finance leader needs to have a macro view of everything as compared to what he knows about his domain expertise. And if you do not bring that expertise into the table, at a finance leader, the decision which you end up making for your organization is not going to be in line with the global best practices, and therefore you'll see there'll be sort of a friction in the organization. There are some things which are being shaken apart because of the leaders not being having the right view. So to me, as a young finance leader, and if I look forward to the generations to come, for I will always say that one, of course, you need to have a bird eye view of your organization. On top of it, you should always have a macroeconomic view of the global economy and the Indian economy, and be aware about what's happening, because everything which is whatever is happening around will always going to come and impact your organization. Take about Russia war, which is going to impact your supply chain. Of course, nobody could fathom that, right? But if somebody is looking at macroeconomic factors and changing their business strategies around that, I think those organizations are going to grow leaps and bounds in the coming time.
Mr. Piyush, thank you so much for your time this afternoon and talking to us. And once again, big congratulations.
Thank you. Really appreciate this. Thank you.